Skinamarink is the scariest thing I have ever seen. So much so that I am actually kind of dreading making this video. However, I feel like I have to. Indie masterpieces like this don't come around often, and it is mainly one of the reasons I decided to make a YouTube channel in the first place. To break down abstract horror. In this video, I will not attempt to uncover Skinamarink, since all art, but especially of this variety, evade objective truth. But instead will offer my own logical explanation, my own personal interpretation of the story the film is trying to tell. Because yes, I do believe there is a story worth interpreting here. One that seemingly nobody has talked about, but one that is portrayed through small little breadcrumbs left throughout this horrific experience. Before I do this though, know that there will be full spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the film, I normally would say you can leave now, but I actually think what I have to say here may enhance your viewing experience, and even make things more scary than they already were, as you'll have proper context of the events, well, at least objectively. That decision is up to you though. So, are you ready? If so, welcome to Skinamarink, a story about a broken family. Skinamarink is a story without parents and without doors or windows. There is no escape and there is no help on the way. This will be important later. And while this experience is akin to a nightmare of a child and could be interpreted on just that level, a primal fear of abandonment and entrapment, I think there is more going on here that leads to that fear. Firstly, where is the mother? We see the dad on multiple occasions, and while he's really only present during the prologue section of the film, at least he is there. But the mom, we never properly see her. The only times we do are amongst the abstract, where she probably isn't actually there. But it's during these sections that we get lines that help tie this whole thing together. This is especially true of a certain eye-opening line, "We love you and Kevin very much." This seems like a rather basic line at first, but it should ring at least a few bells. It's basically a stereotype that parents who are separating will say this line to their kids at some point or another, reassuring them that while they may not love each other anymore, they will still love you. This line, in my opinion, screams divorce. I simply can't see why they would word it this way if it wasn't. I mean, it fits the stereotype to a T. Something that is necessary as the film doesn't really have any other exposition at all. If they were going to get a specific point across, it would be here and now. Of course, I'm not basing an entire video off that clue alone, rather it serves as the foundation to my overall theory. So let's look at other evidence. While the kids are talking near the beginning of the film, one of them specifically says, "I don't want to talk about mom." This stands out to me because clearly the dad is primarily in charge of taking care of the kids. Not only is he the one we see in the beginning, he even makes a phone call to a mysterious person, saying that Kevin fell down the stairs. The film calls attention to all of these things, and while it's left up to interpretation who he is talking to here, I think it's pretty clear that it's almost certainly the mother. Meaning she's not dead, but rather has just left the home. We don't know how smooth of a departure this was, but given the cold tone of the father, and the hesitation to talk about her from the children, I imagine it couldn't have gone that smoothly. Some more supporting lines of the phantom mom, let's call her that, telling Kaylee to go back downstairs. Perhaps the parents were fighting. This is further supported by the line, "Is mom crying?" It's all memories, told in an abstract way. I don't believe this is the story of a single night. Rather, the film itself is an abstract interpretation of a gradual divorce progression, shown by the constant shift between day and night. These inconsistent cycles show the actual passage of time, while the abstract nature of the film shows instead how the kids feel, not actual events. It's like how Hereditary is a story of a grief-stricken family. The abstract stuff isn't what's actually happening, but rather is an interpretation of the emotions the film is conveying. Skinamarink is the same way. So then why is the film so horrific in nature? Well, I think that comes down to perspective. This is all coming from a child's point of view. A child that doesn't understand what's going on, or why suddenly their mom is gone. Things in the film like the door or the toilet pop in and out of existence at various points, representing to an unaware child the mom moving stuff out as she leaves the home. The house has no doors because while everything around them fluctuates, the children cannot leave. They are trapped in a confusing, messy, scary situation, screaming out for mommy as they get hurt. They watch TV, but the scene of the rabbit disappearing keeps playing on repeat, over and over and over and over and over. They think of their mother. The mom herself, portrayed as a shadowy figure, even directly disappears gradually from sight towards the scene at the end of the film. The kids don't understand. Perhaps they're starting to forget. They're starting to forget the face of their dear mother as she becomes a blank slate in their minds, an abstract representation of their newfound fear of abandonment. I mean, they literally took her face away here. I'm not sure how much more clear it can get. Well, I guess unclear would be a more accurate and better way of putting it. I even believe the mysterious figure at the end of the film is also the mother, where the child, Kevin, is asking what her name is. It wouldn't be a stretch to imagine a 4 to 5-year-old might actually forget something like that, especially since she presumably has been out of the house for some time now. That disturbing truth, that heartbreaking and sad reality, is what the film chooses to end on. The children forgetting their own mother. Punished for, in the words of the film itself, she wanted her mom and dad. When I said they hurt, I said it very intentionally. We see multiple occasions, mostly including knives, of them getting physically hurt, but why? Is it really all just demonic beings? Possibly, but I think it means something else here. Neglect. When Kevin falls down the stairs and the dad is on the phone, he says he's fine, yet we specifically never see the dad check on him. While the film could have just omitted that potential scene for the sake of time, I think it's much more intentional than that. I believe the father is neglecting the children. This is evident primarily through the kid's fears. Just as the mother has been gone this entire time as in the plot of the film, the father disappears partway through, a manifestation of that fear of abandonment. While they could just be confused at the mom's disappearance and afraid the dad might be next, I find it more likely that the dad isn't really around too often nowadays, so they're scared he'll just up and disappear completely. But why do I think this? The knife scene. To me, it screamed neglect. A child accidentally hurting themselves with a kitchen tool because the dad wasn't home, or even worse, wasn't paying any attention, just as Kevin fell down the stairs, seemingly receiving little care or sympathy from the father. This all culminates with a phone call to the police, something I believe is quite literal and to be taken at face value. Kevin really did accidentally hurt himself, and yet nobody, no parents anyway, were home to help him. He was scared, yet received no parental care. The dad was presumably just out of the house at the time doing God knows what, while the mom was obviously away because of the divorce. The children continue to experience this, all because of parents who didn't care enough. Man, do I respect this movie. And before I go, I have to mention a few other things that aren't story related but are just as interesting. Firstly, that audio design. My God. It's the best I've probably ever seen, so much so that it's not the kind you write about, but rather implement into your own work. You take inspiration from it. But I've still never seen anything quite like it, and the way that it plays off of analog horror is nothing short of masterful. Honestly, the entire film does that, even to the point where I said it was more of an auditory experience rather than a visual product. The second half of the film, of course, proved me to be very wrong in that front, though. Another thing I loved about the audio design is how dialogue will frequently be interrupted, especially in the beginning, by loud banging. I'm not even sure why I like it so much, but I think it's how the film has so much control over every emotion. It will do what it wants, and it will make you feel like how it wants you to feel. There's even a scene where the phantom mom tells Kaylee to close her eyes, and then the camera goes to black, something I've surprisingly rarely seen. It's like the scares themselves are giving direction to the film and the very script, which is just super awesome to see and very inspirational. One last thing about the audio, I swear, but I love the constant soft banging, or what is probably a heartbeat that can just barely be heard in the backtrack in almost the entire first, half of the film. It's just really cool implementation of a film that is basically just built up to jump scares. And I mean that last comment as a compliment. Some other quick great things about the film are the shots of the Legos. They're beautiful. Honestly, most of the cinematography towards the end of the film is great, especially the long corridor and the door. Secondly, the voice is super creepy, especially when it says things like, "It's time to get up." Or maybe the kids say that. I actually don't even remember now. Yikes. I've been trying to block out the movie from my mind because it's that scary. I love how before Kevin calls the police, the phone is just ringing with no answer. Is he calling the mom here? Possibly. Or how the film is one of the kids apologize right after a jump scare. Almost like the movie itself is breaking the fourth wall and saying sorry for the experience we're about to have. Which I can attest is a horrific one. There's just so many great things to talk about, but I hope I've made my interpretation of the story clear here. This is all just the story of a broken family, and how ravaging divorce can be on young children who don't understand what's going on. Welcome back to the end of the video. As always, I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. Everyone, I gotta be honest, I'm pretty burnt out. My executive function is at an all-time low, meaning I can hardly do things like wash my hands or take a shower, let alone make YouTube videos. Well, actually, I find it easier to make videos and do those things, which seems kinda weird, but also kinda not. Since while it's a lot more work, it's also a lot more rewarding. That being said, I'll probably be moving at a slow pace as it pertains to videos right now. Especially since I don't feel particularly inspired to do any specific one, but I'll still try to make 2 a month, but we'll see. It's kind of cool saying the word everyone and knowing I have a sizable audience that will actually listen. It's one of those surreal things that I don't think you ever quite process. Speaking of, how is everyone doing? Show me you've made it this far into the video by commenting that down below. I do hope everyone is well. Times are hard out here, and sometimes all we can do is navigate through them with the bare minimum level of engagement. It's okay if you do that right now, I do it too. I'm thinking that Vinland Saga will be the next video on the chopping block, specifically titled Vinland Saga, or How Love is Death, but we shall see. And, as always, thank you for watching.